Hello, welcome to the Courageous Self-Care podcast. I'm your host, Christina Marlette. On this show, we talk about courageous self-care. And that means self-care that obviously takes courage. It's not what we would consider to be self-care. I'm not talking about pedicures and manicures and going to the spa, although I love all of those things. What those are something called external self-care. And external self-care can take a lot of energy. It can also be a Band-Aid fix for stuff that's going on the inside. So what I love to focus on this show is internal self-care, the stuff where it's the unknown, it's murky, it's uncharted territory. We often need help with it. I would actually say we always need help with it. It's hard to go there alone. And so that's why I'm here. And I also have another guide with me today. I have Amber Hark. Amber, welcome.
Thank you.
So why I have Amber on the show today is because in a few weeks, the Courageous Self-Care Festival is going to be here. It's a live event that I've been working on for the last 6 months now. And the reason I wanted to do this event is because there's just something so powerful about gathering together with like-minded people who are on the same journey, who are looking for answers, who understand the importance of being in the same room. There's just a different kind of energy there. And that's why I wanted to create this festival. The other reason is that I wanted to open up people's eyes, the participants' eyes, and yours while you're listening to new ways of thinking about self-care. I love new ideas. I know that a new idea can change your life. And so I want this day to be full of new ideas on how we can start practicing self-care that really gives us more energy, it gives us better relationships, and it gives us increased health and vitality. So Amber is one of our VIP vendors at the festival, and the people who are coming as vendors and speakers are just too good to keep to the festival, and so I wanted to share them with you. So Amber, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to these days.
Thanks, Christina. It is an honor to be a part of your community. And I came to be doing what I'm doing today really by accident, or I don't believe in accidents, serendipitously. Yeah. And that was because after a life-changing burnout several years ago, where I hit rock bottom, I realized that something significant had to change in the way that I was steamrolling through life. As a classic overachiever, I can't say no. I like to do as many things as I possibly can, and I hate to fail. So when I was looking at what I could do to transition into a healthier way of life, a more productive and conscious way of leading my family, I decided to go back to school for holistic nutrition. But I wanted to do it not in the more traditional way, but I wanted to study it in a way that had a strong foundation in functional medicine. And so functional medicine is what looks at the root causes, and it treats the person, not the symptoms. And it really looks at a lot of different alternative modalities to work together to treat whatever the root cause is. And so through this, I ended up supplementing that learning with some training in a practicum in energy medicine and Dien Chen, which is a facial reflexology modality. This has provided an opportunity for me to help clients really identify and get clear on those root causes of their health concerns, so we can get right to work on their wellness without any of the mystery. And then I'm also a founding member with a little company called Beauty Counter, and it is a safer skincare company that's rooted in advocacy and getting the laws changed around ingredient selection so that we can decrease that toxicity that we are exposing ourselves to every day.
Wow, you just sound so much like me. I do this and I do that and I do that, and this is how it all works together. I love that. And I think women are particularly good at being innovative that way. We don't need to pinhole, is that a word? I don't know, put ourselves into a one hole, pigeonhole? I don't know what that expression is.
I get what you're saying. I totally get it.
Where we just do one thing and we keep on doing that one thing and we put on blinders to everything else. I think we are so good at having an overarching desire to help people. And then how can I best do this in a way that really, really serves the whole person? So I just love that you are involved in all of those different aspects. And I have been fortunate to benefit from taking sessions with you and getting your beauty counter products. And I just have nothing but positive praise and wild enthusiasm for what you're doing.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. We, as women too, I think we do need that affirmation from our community, from the people that we're so connected to, because we care deeply. And I think that's a part of why we have to sometimes have our fingers in a few different things, because we're multifaceted, and it really allows us to feed our soul in the different ways that we need, while also benefiting others. I often think it's ironic how I left this very, very hectic world for a new, equally hectic, but in a much more grounding.
Yeah.
So I'm not any less busy, but I feel like the things that I've learned and I've applied are contributing to the wellness of my family while I'm busy, compared to working against it. So, but we are really good at filling in those little crevices with new things.
I love that you said that, Amber, because that is the difference that I've noticed in my life too, where when we go from, I loved how you said steamrolling through life. I'm going to use that. That's a great analogy, and I could totally identify it. Steamrolling through life. And then we often reach a rock bottom or a crisis or some sort of chaos or universal sign that we just can't continue that way. And we know what's on the other side. We know that we want to feel fulfilled. We want to contribute. We want to nurture people. We also want to take care of ourselves. And what's in the middle of those two ends of the spectrum, I think, is courageous self-care. And so you are demonstrating a lot of that by tuning into what actually fulfills you, what fills you up when you are helping other people, so that it's not a drain on you. You're also using it to contribute to your family. And then it supports everything. It's like this scaffolding rather than being that steamroller that crushes everything and works against all of your goals and intentions.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it. So you told us a little bit about what you're going to be sharing at the festival, but we want to know more. So tell us what you're going to be having at your table and why it's important to you.
Sure, absolutely. So I am going to be showcasing my health practice, which will enable me to speak to the energetic medicine side of things. So most people understand, what nutrition is and the importance of making healthy food choices, and even going as deep as, figuring out what's causing inflammation or what they may be allergic to. But there's also a lot of muddy areas around nutrition, actually, because there's so many different theories out there, and it's easy to get overwhelmed and stuck in what is effective for us. And I believe very much in bio-individuality. So us as individuals, our cells are different than the person next to us. The way that we deal with things is different than the person next to us. And our health history is different than the people next to us. And so all of those things play a role. Our environmental factors, there's so many things. And so I had the privilege of learning a diagnostic system, which is called Ediscan. And it is a German program that basically reads the information from our bodies, from our cells, and then it can also transmit information back to our cells. So I like to compare it very much to the relationship that our cell phone has with cell towers and other cell phones. Only this one has way less electrosmog, which may be getting totally leaky. But I like to use that analogy because you can't see that information being transmitted, but we know that it works. We know that it's solid, it's reliable, and it's very much the same thing with the way that bioresonance diagnostic tools work. They're used by scientists and medical professionals in Europe for the last several decades, and so they're proven. It's a proven system. And so I had the honor of being able to learn firsthand the benefits of this system for me and my own family. And I wanted to be able to use that in my practice. It really helps to weed through that mud and get to the root of what it is that's causing that inflammation or whatever the challenges that the client is having. And so I'll be demonstrating that sort of, like I'll be having some different screenshots in a presentation, basically what is a bioresonance system, to answer questions for people that may have absolutely no idea. And I'll also be introducing some of our, on the really fun side, and the beauty side of things, is I will have some products available from Beauty Counter, probably from our holiday line, because it's so gorgeous, so that people can learn about ways to get to the root causes of their illness, and then they can also look at some really wonderful ways that they can pamper themselves in a way that doesn't create any inflammation in their system, or look at some gift options for the holidays. So it's a nice balance, which really is the two sides of what make me tick. So I'll just have them both there, and I think it'll be interesting. And I'm thrilled to just be able to be a learning participant at the festival as well, to listen to your lineup of speakers. I have had the opportunity to meet a few of them, and they are so inspiring. So it's just going to be, I think, a really beautiful day for us to get together and support each other and learn.
Oh, you just said so many things I'm very excited about. So first thing I'm going to mention is the Beauty Counter eyeshadow that I ordered. I'm going to be wearing it at the festival. If you don't know about Beauty Counter, we'll put a link to Amber's website in this podcast. The Christmas eyeshadow, or the holiday eyeshadow, if you don't celebrate Christmas, it's so pretty. So I'm going to wear it at the festival. And then what I love about the bioresonance that you're doing is I'm someone who is, I have researched nutrition since I was probably about 12 years old. I got really interested as a 12-year-old girl who was going through puberty. I went down the wrong road and wanted to lose weight, and there was the whole fat craze. So I've been studying nutrition since then, and I have tried a whole bunch of different ways of eating based on other people's results and other people's opinions. So what I appreciate about the bioresonance is that it's not about other people. It's exactly about me. The system is ridiculously amazing, and it brings up stuff that you would never know otherwise. There's just no way to know. I don't know if you want to share about that client story you shared with us the other night, but if you have a client story that you want to tell, I think it would help people understand the depth that it goes to.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had dozens of amazing testimonials that have happened from using this system, but the one that really stands out for me is a client that was struggling with her hormones in a way that it was exhausting for her. So she ended up progressing to a point where she was getting her cycle up to 3 times a month, and terrible PMS symptoms, no energy. She was borderline anemic just because of how often she was having her cycle. She'd been to the doctor who had run a slew of blood tests. Everything was coming back within that normal range. She'd been to dietitians. She'd been to a variety of different practitioners to try and get some answers for what was going on. And she was ready to just resign herself to the fact, like, this is just my new normal. There's obviously nothing physically wrong with me in terms of what the medical field can do to help me. And so this is just going to be the way that it is. And she was extremely discouraged. She did not have a lot of hope about how she was going to get to the other side of this, because she just didn't have any answers or nowhere to start. So we ended up connecting, and I put her, I worked with her through the Ediscan system. And basically what we identified was that she was having an acute toxic reaction to the coating that is on polyester fibers in underwear. So you don't get any more specific than that of knowing, like, this is what was showing as a cause for this huge imbalance. And as soon as we made a switch to cotton underwear, she also changed her tampons to an organic cotton tampon, because there's no polyester coatings at all in those. And then she started to feel better almost immediately. So she was in the middle of like her second cycle that month. And just by making that change, she started to feel less inflamed. And so long story short is that after working together for 2 months, she just had her first month where she had 1 cycle of a normal, like of a healthy length with 0 PMS symptoms. So not just that she, didn't have more than 1 period, but she also had no adverse symptoms. So she didn't have the headaches, she didn't have the bloating, she didn't have the moodiness. She was able to handle some very overwhelming situations that she normally wouldn't have been able to deal with. And she handled it all like a champ. Her anemic levels came back to normal. Her thyroid that was showing that it was being taxed in the system was back to regular energy, and all from that simple adjustment of getting rid of that polyester underwear that she'd been wearing every single day. So first time in 15 years, she had a month with 0 PMS symptoms, and then only 1 cycle. So she was blown away. She shared it with her doctor. She shared it with anybody that was listening. They kind of looked at her like, I don't know how that works, but that's pretty good. So that's just sort of one little example of how we got to the root cause of something that would have never showed up in a traditional blood test or other types of diagnostic scans, but it directly impacted the quality of her life. Like, it was life-changing for her, which just gives me so much joy. So yeah, that's just one little story, but there's countless stories.
Yeah, I think that story is such a great example of how when we, how do I want to say it? It's just a great example of how there would be no way to know that without the system that you're using. And when we're talking about a system, it's so simple. Like, as the client, I just went in and put my hands on a box. It read all of the energy and took everything with me just sitting there. So it's not, I think it is rocket science because it's so complicated and the system has taken so long to build. But
and it's used by rocket scientists too. That's the pretty cool. It's actually used by a scientist to keep astronauts healthy in space. So it is literally rocket science.
Yeah. The system is rocket science. For the client, it's super easy. You don't have to know anything. You just go in there and put your hands on a box, and miracles happen because then Amber interprets it.
It's pretty phenomenal. It's been life-changing for us as well. And at the very beginning, I was so critical, and I looking at it from a very pragmatic standpoint, going, how can this possibly be this effective? And it was really in me understanding just how information is transmitted in our world on a very practical level, without even having to get into anything quantum or metaphysical. It is just from a very practical scientific standpoint. It uses a very similar information transmitting process. So it's something definitely where I had to learn to not overthink, because then when you're overthinking, it really does interrupt the intuitive piece of being able to just trust in what our body really does want us to know. Mm-hmm. It wants to work with us. It really does. It doesn't want to be stiff and sore and tired.
Right. Oh, I could talk about this all day, but for the sake of the listeners, we're going to move on. So, Amber, how would you define or describe self-care? What does it mean to you?
Sure. So I love your explanation of how it's so much deeper than the physical, the massage or the glass of wine, which I feel can end up becoming more of a problem than a benefit. Right. I have to, this is going to seem really strange, but the words that come to mind when I think of self-care for personally is the 2 words good enough. Mm-hmm. And I'll give a little bit of a backstory to that. I actually have a bracelet that's engraved with good enough on it. But as I alluded to earlier in our conversation, I am a natural born perfectionist, and I am a overachiever to the ninth degree. When I do something, it has to be done with excellence. And I don't think that that's a bad thing per se. It's the work ethic has served me really well in a lot of ways. But what it's disabled me from doing is being able to let go of things when they're no longer serving me or the people that I care about. And so I would very easily tip that scale of the right motivation behind my hard work to my need to just pour everything that I have into it, drain all of my resources, and it was never my original intention. And so when I had that full on breakdown several years ago, I was receiving a lot of different support from different sources. And one of the things that kept coming back was you have to be able to let things go. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to accept that sometimes something is just good enough. And when those words were first said to me, my entire physical body recoiled at them. I was just like, what are you talking about? Good enough. To me, that equaled apathy. I was like, this is not acceptable. And I really fought it for a long time. And it was that last piece where I'd done a lot of the work to get to that point of being healthy and feeling like I was thriving again. And it was just that last little element that I really had to be at peace with and come to terms with what that really meant. It didn't mean being lazy or giving up. It meant letting go of things when they're no longer serving me. So I use that as my guiding principle in whatever I'm doing now. And so if something is getting to the point where I'm realizing I'm stuck in it and I'm not able to progress, and I'll know that because my tension will be up, I'll be extra agitated, and I won't always know immediately that that's what it is. And so I go back to that place of, okay, I did my best. It's going to be great. It's going to work great. Nobody's going to get hurt by this. This is something I'm really proud of, but it doesn't have to be, because I realized that perfection piece it's unachievable anyways. So we're constantly chasing this dangling carrot that is so toxic for our soul. So that's kind of that's my root piece there when it comes to self-care is letting it go and allowing it to be good enough.
That's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And I can totally identify as a perfectionistic overachiever as well. Life lessons in there that I can recognize having gone through myself. So the reason that I decided initially to pair courage with self-care is because I feel like the self-care that is really transformational, like learning to let go, learning that things are good enough, learning that we deserve to nourish ourselves along with nourishing and nurturing others, there is often fear involved. Like, what if this is not good enough? What if someone perceives this as not being my best? What if? And that fear can be debilitating. It can actually prevent us from practicing any kind of self-care. So that's why I felt like, an inspiration came to me that courageous self-care was what I was going to focus on. And since then, I've been unpacking what that truly means. So I love to get the guests on the podcast to be models of how to stretch your comfort zone and be in that nervousness or that fear. And so to model that, Amber, I'm going to ask you to share something that not a lot of people know about you.
Sure. Okay. I was racking my brain about this because I have become an open book.
Yes.
In terms of whatever is going on with my life. I want to eradicate the stigmas around everything from mental health to grief and so forth. But the thing that not everybody would know, I suppose, is that I have almost died 4 times in my 43 years.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
So the first time was in childbirth with my daughter. I didn't even think that was a possibility in a developed country to go into a hospital with a seemingly normal pregnancy and almost not be able to hold your child. So I almost died in childbirth with Ava. And then the next 2 were serious car accidents, which I should not have I didn't technically walk away from the first one, but I should not have survived either of them. And I remember specifically hearing somebody running towards the vehicle and then being on the phone and saying, there's no way the driver survived.
Wow.
And thinking to myself, okay, does that mean that I didn't? Like, am I having an out-of-body experience? And all of these, emotions going through my head. And at that point, I didn't have kids, so I actually should have shared that one before the childbirth one. That first accident, I was newly married, and my first thought was, somebody needs to call my boss to tell them I'm going to be late because they're going to be angry that I'm late. Which really kind of shows you what I was rooted in, right? That please. That was life-changing because I was like, oh my gosh, I almost died. And then I shouldn't be laughing about that, but I really, like, it was just this bizarre thing in retrospect where I'm like, that is so classic that is the one thing that came to mind.
Yes.
After questioning whether I was actually alive. And then the last one was just 2 years ago. I was mistreated for a pulmonary embolism as the result of a broken leg. And again, developed country, great healthcare system, and just because of a huge amount of people on one day in the emergency room, I was sent home and then almost died that night, and had some touch and go things over the next week. So what that showed me, and then to partner with that, like when I say I have this intimate relationship with grief, is that I lost 5 very close people to me, not all at one time, but over the course of 3 different instances before the age of 30. And so having that loss where, you know, in juxtaposition, my husband he lost one person, and that was his grandma by the time that he was, you know, the same age, 30. And for me, it was like these touch points throughout my childhood and adult life that I realized just how precious life is and how quickly it can be taken from us. And then having had those own experiences myself, it really helped me to deal with grief in a healthy way, because if I hadn't, then the amount of toxicity that I wouldn't be able to function. Right. And so it was just really coming to terms with what does that mean to really deal with grief in a constructive way. And then because with that, when you have these near-death experiences yourself, there is a grieving piece that comes with that, because you get so close to it, you start to second guess everything, and you have to be able to let go of that, learn from it, and then let go of that experience, because it can just feed fear unbelievably. And I've had to deal with that piece throughout my whole life, for sure. You know, you go into a counseling session and they tell you, let's talk about worst case scenarios. These don't happen. So you can let go of that fear. And I'm like, actually, these did happen. Let's take a different tactic to that. And so, you know, just basically really owning our emotions, being okay with whatever those big emotions are. And then, again, letting them go when they no longer serve you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so powerful.
That you lost.
So, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you opening up a window and letting us peek inside on what it's been like to go through that. And I really admire you. So thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
So there are listeners who are going to want to know more, whether it's about the beauty counter or the Ediscan. So where can they find you online?
For sure. So the first thing would be, if you are visual and you have an Instagram account, and it is radiant.yyc. I have a website that is radiantwellness.ca, and so that will continue to get more and more information on it, but right now it's just a really great way to connect, so that you have a way of reaching out and we can have a conversation and I can answer any questions you might have. And then I have a beauty counter website as well, and it is www.beautycounter, all one word, .com/en-ca/Amber Hark. But that's a lot of information. So all of those things will actually be accessible through the radiantwellness.ca website, just to simplify things. Yeah.
Love it. Excellent. So just before we finish, I want to invite you, if you are in Calgary, we'd love to have you at the festival, and I want to make it really easy for you. We're having it at Mount Royal University, and it's a full day event. I would love to give you a complimentary ticket as a gift for listening to this podcast. So you can get that at selfcareticket.com, and all of those links will be in the podcast description. We would love to have you there. We have swag bags for the first 100 people. And these are not just your average swag bags where you pull out a business card, and then recycle it. These are swag bags where I've asked the vendors and the speakers to put in something that they would be absolutely delighted to pull out themselves. So Amber, what are you putting in?
Sure. So I'm excited to share one of my favorite things from the Beauty Counter lineup. So we have this best-selling charcoal mask, and this is not just like any other charcoal mask. This is one that any skin type can use, from adolescents to your husband to yourself, and it can be used as an all-over skin treatment as well as a spot treatment. And so it'll make you feel like $1,000,000 when you put it on. It really just draws out those toxins, but it will not disrupt your hormones in any way. It won't create any inflammation, no heavy metals. It really is a beautiful product that we use quite a bit in our house between all four of us. So I've even got pictures of my husband wearing it. So this will be an opportunity for everybody to be able to experience that and hopefully love it as much as we do.
Oh, that is so generous and exciting. And I'm just thinking, how can I get my hands on a swag bag?
I can hook you up with one.
Well, Amber, it has been totally delightful connecting with you in this way today. I know our listeners have learned a lot. I'm sure you have some new ideas and new thoughts, and I encourage you to go to Amber's website to learn more because, as I said at the beginning, a new thought can change your life. And this one, well, the new thoughts that Amber has presented really are transformational, I say from my own personal experience. So Amber, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's all good. Thank you. And for you listening, congratulations. You get a gold star from me, a virtual gold star for practicing courageous self-care by listening to the podcast today. I look forward to connecting with you again next time as well. Bye-bye for now.